After all, it's just another way to look at reality. As our tradition teaches us, we can think of prayer as a wheel. Now I'm specifically referring to the fourth lesson of the 6 weeks course of Introduction to Christian Meditation, which you can find on our WCCM international website or ask into your weekly group of meditation. So, prayer can be seen as a wheel. And this wheel needs to touch the ground of reality to be effective. But this wheel is made of several different arms, which are different styles of prayer, and every arm is connected to the hub, to the center of the wheel. The center of the wheel for Christians is the one and only prayer of Jesus. Meditation, as we see it, is one of these arms. For John Main, is one of the most direct ways to get to the center of the wheel. And for me, irony in photography is one of the most powerful ways of expression, one of the most effective tools to reach and empathize with yourself and with your audience. As we do in meditation, I think it's fundamental not to be a fundamentalist. And irony, so not taking ourselves too seriously, is practicing a great virtue, which is letting things go. Letting ourselves go. The letting go of our images of the world and the images of ourselves. In this sense, being indulgent to ourselves and also to our neighbors is a way of loving our neighbors, as we are called to love ourselves. For this reason, we need to understand that irony is not mockery. There's a boundary we need to be fully aware and pay attention to not to cross, to respect. Photographs, images are very powerful. Photography is an extremely powerful tool, a powerful weapon that can bring joy and good to yourself and to other people, but can also be detrimental to their lives. Sometimes, for example, occasions of interesting photographs arise. But what's the price of these images? So we are not photojournalists, and unless we have a mission or unless we are documenting something inside a specific project, we better not take pictures, for example, of children or of poor people suffering. It's a form of respect that we need to take into account. A real contemplative photographer knows when it's not the right moment to press the shutter and when it's the right moment to press it. At least, it's important not to make these photographs public. Having said that, if your photographs are a way of exploring your own contradictions and the contradictions of your world, then irony can be a key to enter into an interesting way to approach our subjects and to represent the paradoxes and the humor that we can encounter in everyday lives. We will be guided by some pictures of the very well-known master of street photography and irony, the American photographer Elliott Erwitt. In his long life, of course, he photographs many events using different styles. Surely, what strikes people the most are his works with dogs and his ironic pictures that we are going to consider now. He loves dogs, and he said that not only his pictures of them work because people love dogs too, but dogs are humanized by our gaze. After all, many dogs keep company to humans, and many dogs do human jobs, like policemen, shepherds, rescuers, and so on. They also say that sometimes dogs are resembling their owners, or is it vice versa maybe? So what about this picture, for example? Isn't it just brilliant and funny? Isn't it a way to see life with the eyes of a child? And we can train our eyes to see like a child, as we can train our mind to be aware of the reality that surrounds us, so we can notice the joyous sides of life, even in situations that might be difficult for ourselves or for others. Elliot Erwitt said that he was walking with a friend, another photographer, when he saw this scene. He didn't have his camera with him at that moment. We are in New York in this picture in the year 2000, but his friend had his camera with him. So he asked his friend if he could borrow it, and he shot the entire film roll. So my question is, there were two professional photographers working together, and both probably saw the same thing. But only one of them noticed the combination of elements that could have been interesting. I dare to say that Mr. Erwitt saw the picture way before pressing the shutter. But then he needed to shoot almost 30 pictures, 30 photos to organize all the elements in the way that he wanted to look like, and in a way that really speaks to us. He once said that through the subject of dogs, he really wanted to speak about the human comedy of life. Let's have a look to other pictures now. These pictures are all taken inside a museum, and they are noticeable because here the author creates a visual short circuit that leaves us puzzled and intrigued and wanting to analyze the picture on different levels. Irony is so powerful because in a situation that can be ordinary, it highlights an aspect that makes you want to look with more attention and awareness. Nevertheless, it's very difficult to find and obtain irony and self-irony in a photograph. But let's have a look at this picture now. Surely here the photographer had to wait for the right moment when only one human actor was moving and came to the right position. To the right position for what? To the right position to let this statue be meaningful in an unusual way. Both the statue and the man are unaware of what's happening to them. But here is a photographer that makes both speech and other language, the language of irony. Question: have you ever had the feeling that you are living unaware of what's going on around you? There's a bit of this feeling that I get looking at this picture. But of course, sometimes in Elliot Erwitt's pictures, irony is just the first step for a more dramatic thought. In this case, you can think of something that's happening without any warning. So it can be a metaphor of the uncertainty of everyone's life. And now let's consider another picture. Here, like in the previous one, Mr. Erwitt is literally making statues and paintings alive. They are acting for him in the comedy of life. One more picture. Here, in this picture, the photographer wonderfully depicts a social attitude that's very present in our society. It's a funny picture, but at the same time, it's very thought-provoking, and that's what we might want to aim for. We might want to speak ironically about ourselves and our world. If we can do that, I think that we can make a lot of progress in our spiritual life as well. One of the paradoxes of the mystical life is this one: that a man cannot enter into the deepest center of himself and pass through that center into God, unless he is able to pass entirely out of himself and empty himself and give himself to other people in the purity of a selfless love. For contemplation is not ultimately perfect unless it is shown. And now, let's consider a picture from Thomas Merton's archive. This picture, one of the very few to which the great contemplative monk gave a title to, is entitled The Skyhook, or The Only Known Photograph of God. Sometimes a title can help in understanding a picture. In reality, it's the work of a life to make a picture speak by itself. But in this case, this title reveals the humoristic side of Thomas Merton, and I find it very funny indeed.